Tightening laws to combat online harms is not exclusive to Singapore. Several other countries have also drawn up new legislation aimed at protecting people from malicious web content. Let's go to the United Kingdom. The online safety bill is currently being considered there. It would require social media platforms to quickly remove illegal content such as revenge pornography or hate speech. Now, should the tech firms fail to act, they are liable to fines and even criminal prosecution. To Germany next, they introduced the Network Enforcement Act in 2017. Now, that law requires social media platforms to take down illegal content within 24 hours of being notified. If they don't comply, they could face fines of up to 50 million euros. Similar law was introduced in France in 2020, but it was struck down by the country's constitutional court a year later. The ABA law would have required social media companies to remove illegal content within a day or face penalties. Although the various laws have led to concerns over the restraint of free speech, governments around the world argue that these are necessary to protect people from harmful content online. They also want tech companies to be accountable for the online safety of their users. Well, for more, we're joined by Assistant Professor Saifuddin Ahmed from NTU's Wee Kim Wee School of Communications and Information. Professor, what does the bill mean for social media platforms as well as internet service providers?
I think if the proposed bill is enacted into law, it could affect social media companies and ISPs in multiple ways. First is the question of increased accountability. For long, there has been this debate about increased accountability for social media companies, and this again brings the same issue forward. So social media companies and ISPs would be required to monitor closely and moderate the content, especially if it relates to the 9 categories outlined in the bill. What it also means is that social media companies will be required to promptly act on content takedown, which may require hiring or expanding the content moderating teams. This would also force social media companies to work with the governments closely and establish transparent mechanisms to flag or pull down content.
Well, Professor, in that very short answer, you've already raised challenges. For example, they need to work with governments. They need to have transparent ways in which they can work together. They need to be more accountable. Are these the only challenges, or are there worse challenges they will have to face should this bill be passed?
Okay, I think that they will face several challenges. The first challenge may be with content moderation efforts. While we don't have empirical data regarding the scale of the problem for all 9 categories highlighted in the bill, this would still require social media companies to either use automated systems or use human moderators to review content. Now, this may pose a challenge depending on the scale of the teams. Another challenge can be regarding balancing and maintaining user trust. As we have witnessed in the past with some countries, content takedown is sometimes met with criticism from the users. While this may not be a problem for content regarding, let's say, scam or gambling, it can be a potential issue for content regarding, let's say, incitement to violence. So social media companies will need to be more open about their content policies. And additionally, I would like to add here that since we are dealing with content moderation and takedown of content that can severely harm societies, the social media companies will need to work with governments and law enforcement, something they have not been very responsive about in the past.
Mm-hmm. There's always a sense of playing catch-up, isn't there, Professor? How effective, then, will the new laws be in keeping Singapore's online space realistically safe?
It's a difficult question to answer if the bill would be effective or not. We may need some time to evaluate the success of the bill along with data, though the effectiveness would depend on numerous factors, including the bill's wider scope and how closely the government and social media companies work together. Some areas may be more critical than the others. Of prime importance, I think, would be the cooperation between all stakeholders. So social media companies will need to act upon the expectation of the government. Also, both the government and social media companies, and perhaps most social media companies, would need to adapt to the evolving tech that malicious actors may use. For example, we are already witnessing the use of AI to create deepfakes that are so close to reality. And if you look on YouTube, the individuals are using Elon Musk's deepfake to run scams. So it's already there. So given the emerging tech, the stakeholders will need to continuously adapt to it. However, I think this is a step in the right direction. as we observed in our research here at InCube in Wikimbi. So everyday exposure to scams have increased in Singapore. While most citizens don't lose money, we still need to protect the vulnerable. Moreover, I have also observed in my data that Singaporeans don't do well in recognizing deepfakes on social media and frequently fall for it. So such deepfakes can be used to run scams and can also be used to disturb social harmony. So if these issues are well addressed, the bill can be effective in minimizing the risk in the future.
Well, thanks so much for joining us this evening, Assistant Professor Saifuddin Ahmed from NTU.